Welcome to another episode of Under the Influence with me, Jazz Rai. Most of you are familiar with me. I'm from the Sikh Recovery Network, and this is our podcast. As you've probably seen episodes of this Under the Influence before, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Tarsaim Singh today from the Share Charity UK, also part of the Akhand Kirtani Jatha, AKJ, as some of you know it, and also he's the main man at the Singh Sabha Gurdwara in Coventry. So welcome to yourself, Bhai Tarsaim Singh. I've got Tom Inderjit Singh from Birmingham, and otherwise known as Tom. So welcome, Tom, to your first episode of Under the Influence. Kamaldeep Singh from the National Police Sikh Association, and also a volunteer at the Sikh Recovery Network. And we're going to talk about the Sikh Recovery Network and the services we provide. And it's quite a significant year for us because we hit our 10-year anniversary this year. And to celebrate that, we've got our next retreat, the upcoming retreat, which is on the February the 19th in Nottingham, the Sherwood, which has been very popular with the people who have attended. And I think this is probably our third one there, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's the third retreat there. So if you're listening and you need support with alcohol or drug addiction, then please contact the Sikh Recovery Network. I'm delighted to say, Tom, I'm going to come over to you first. You attended the first retreat, your first retreat, was it 2024?
Yeah, it was. My name's Tom anyway. The first retreat I attended was August 2024. Looking back on it, it was probably the best decision I ever made in my life, because it came at a time when I was experiencing a lot of personal difficulties, mainly from external sources. Family were going through a hard time. And then I would say that obviously addiction was getting a hold of me, and I just needed something or a solution in my life to put me back on track. It was a difficult time, and so I attended the Sikh Recovery Network retreat, not knowing what to expect, not knowing anything about the people that were going to be there, not knowing what the process was, what we were going to do. So I went in there blind, but it was, like I said, it was, for me personally, it was the best decision I ever made. Because once I arrived at the retreat, I remember arriving at the retreat, anxiety levels were high, my emotions were all over the place. Because at that time in my life, I had lost faith in mankind. I found that people were not very understanding. Nobody really supported. I needed support at the time. I couldn't get support anywhere. So, arriving there in the evening, Jazz was there, Cam, and Bhai Tarsaim Singh. And I felt at ease. For some strange reason, I felt at ease. I was able to interact with the people who arrived. And I found, strangely enough, that most of these guys had the similar problems to myself. And I wasn't alone. And the first thing that we did, once we made little introductions between ourselves, and we openly spoke about what brought us to the retreat. And I can safely say within 20 minutes of me speaking from my heart, I didn't feel any anxiety. I felt, there's people here that actually want to listen to me. There's people here that actually understand what I'm going through. And very quickly, I felt ease. And it was a lovely 4 days, very structured 4 days. It wasn't not just to help people with addiction. I found that it was to help us cope with life. How do you cope with life? And one of the most profound things that happened to me was I reconnected with my faith at a time when my faith was dormant. It was actually non-existent. And the most powerful thing was that for 4 days we connected to Nitnem. Japji Sahib in the morning, the Raya Ras in the evening. And that set a precedent in my life. As today I'm in a far better place. So that's what the retreat gave me, don't know what you felt like, Jez.
No. I mean, when I came into recovery, I didn't have, the Sikh Recovery Network or something, anything similar didn't exist. So I didn't have that benefit. Basically, I want to come to you, with Tom saying that he'd lost faith in mankind. That's quite a powerful statement, just saying he lost faith in mankind, right? I think you've been to all the retreats now since 2023, the first one in Shropshire, Clonmel. And what Tom's saying as well, and what I've found as well, and probably you've the same, Cam, is that a lot of these people that come are broken, right? They're struggling with addiction, and many other mental illnesses as well. But they come and they find Sikhi, they found faith, and a lot of them said they didn't come; they came to battle to find a solution for their addiction, but actually there was a spiritual void, and they was looking for something spiritual.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we look at, there's been a lot of people who've come through in the retreats now, and everybody's situation is different. I mean, there's some similarities in the situations, but everybody's different. But I think going back to your point about losing faith in mankind, it's very easy in today's society, isn't it? It's just the way everything seems very selfish. And even when Guruji says that, when you get pain, no one really seems to be there to support you. And I think when we talked about the spiritual message, because obviously the disease is mental, it's physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's a very, once it grips an individual, there's a lot of work to be done, really. And spirituality was a big part of it, but obviously the emotional parts, even what Tom talked about there, the emotional part, even your family, and so we think that Sikhi is a solution. It is the solution, and often it's looked upon as that you're there talking about throwing Sikhi through someone's throat, and some people are apprehensive of coming even as well. But it's not about that, is it? It's about a person just finding who they are. And a lot of the guys, if not, vast majority of them they're at a rock bottom, aren't they?
Yeah.
In terms of life, sometimes there's no avenue there, and it's just the alcohol. The alcohol, it's an unfortunate thing to say, but the alcohol is their best friend.
Yeah.
And it's their worst enemy at the same time, and I think that's what was a kind of a bit eye-opener for me. I mean, my father used to drink, and I think we've lost a lot of family members from drink. But when you see it firsthand and talk and go through it, it was...
I think a lot of people are familiar with you and the talks you do. You've been with the Sikh Enlightenment course, but I think, did you ever drink both the same thing?
I drank when I was about 18, 17.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something that really... It didn't sit with me. I wasn't religious.
Yeah.
I wasn't religious, and I didn't stop because of religion. I found Sikhi after. I found it probably when I was about 22, 21, 22. But it wasn't... It I don't know, Guru Kirpan, however that worked. It didn't really... I've never been drunk or I've never drank like that.
I just wanted to ask you the question because a lot of people will be sat there wondering whether, I know, Cam, you went to university. I think you both went to university. Tom, you went to uni as well. It's only me that didn't go to university. But did you drink?
I used to drink. So I was brought up in a household. My parents were Amardari, and when I got to college, so I started quite late really. So I started to drink when I got to college, and I was never really a big drinker. And then drank for a number of years, but never heavy. So even in my house, I wouldn't go. I wasn't one of those that on the weekend went out for a drink. And it was only then Sodana. And it was never to be like because I enjoyed drinking. It was just to get high, really, to have a bit of a buzz. So that's why when I drank, even then, we're cautious even to my dad as well, And then obviously you up and out for keeper, but there's times then you start drinking in front of your dad as well on occasions. But it was never a big thing for me. So it was never a big thing for me to stop. But just one thing that Tom, when you started off to talk about, lost his faith. I think one thing I found is it's a bit of an identity crisis as well. So it's about who am I?
Yeah.
Right. And obviously, I've got a book around that as well. But what I find with the addiction is, right? right? So never mind society, where do I fit in society? What I found with people in addiction is actually there's the meaningful is where actually who am I? Because my family don't see me as the breadwinner or anything because I'm in addiction, I'm not functioning. And then society is a lot, so it becomes a case where actually what I find is through SRN and the retreats, it gives that person a time to find who they are, right? To work from that. And because when you start empowering this individual to think, you know what, so when we're saying, we've come, myself and Baisal, we come from a time where we're in the community doing work as well, right? And we only concentrate on that. But actually these guys, are we here? They're the part of the community as well. And sometimes I think they get neglected. But I think they probably need more support than the average Amritari.
But when you first came to the tree, obviously you've all of you've got different experiences. Tom's coming as an addict. I'm an addict. Alcohol's my addiction as well. But you guys come in. So what was your first impression when you walked in? You walked into that first retreat. I know some of the guys when they saw you two, they thought, "Oh my God, two Gyannis, right? What will we let ourselves in for?" Right, and they thought exactly what you said, Baisa. We're gonna have Sikhi rammed down our throat. But afterwards, they were greeting you and Cam afterwards, thanking you more than thanking me, because I thought that they found something completely different to what they thought.
Yeah, I think it was difficult. That first one for me was, when we got into it, it wasn't, but it was difficult. The thought of what we had to do there,
Yeah.
I didn't really know. I didn't know if you put, 15 people who have got an addiction in a room, and then you start talking to them. Are they gonna gel with that thing? Are they gonna understand it? Are they gonna listen? Or are they gonna say, nah, you're just talking too much? So it was a very new experience.
Yeah, but you know what I found? I mean, that's a very good point. That you put 15, 20 addicts into a room, you're going to get chaos, and there's going to be a lot. But I think what helps as well is that having that influence of Sikhi in there, it calms everything down.
I think for some of them, it was the first experience. So doing Netdanem as a collective, it was a new experience for some of these people. And so although they were, let's say, in their 30s or whatever, they've never heard Netdanem or sat through it before. So for myself, going into the question you asked us as well. So I've been a beat bobby, right, in Handsworth. So dealing with even Punjabi alcoholics on the streets. So my understanding is dealing with jobs like where alcohol's involved. I thought I know how to handle this. But when it came to close family members who were going through addiction and actually dealing with these guys, it was a massive wake-up call to myself to say, actually, this is, you don't really know how to deal with an alcoholic. So the experience of SRN is myself and myself as well, we're constantly learning ourselves all the time. We don't profess to say that we know how to deal with this, but we've come a long way because we've learned off these guys.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things is after the retreats as well, some people, the aftercare, when people go into the conventional rehabs or treatment centres, the aftercare isn't great. But what you do on a Wednesdays, we have the meetings in Oldbury at the office, the Sikh Recovery Network office. Tom, you hold the online meetings on a Tuesday and a Friday as well. So the aftercare is important. We've just recently had the Simran Job in Leamington. We've got a Sukhmani Sahib Dapat coming up in March in Derby to celebrate the 10 years. So I think that aftercare is really in that connection, keeping that connection as a group, but also to their Sikhi is important.
I mean, you're getting calls from people who've just went to the first retreat still.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That connection's a massive part of it. But it's also the fact that Sikh, which is an important point, Sikh Recovery Network's evolved quite a bit in terms of the learnings of possibly the first retreat or the first workshop that we did even.
Yeah.
And so many things have come out from that because the retreats aren't the same as the first one, for instance, are they? And so if someone's come to the first one, if they came to one now, they'd probably see a lot of difference. And even the Sikhi part, when we first started, we thought they're not really going to want to do Bart in the morning or anything like that, right? So we just started with Japji Sahib. We said, Japji Sahib you have to do, but the rest is up to you. And on all the retreats now, probably the last 5 or 6, everyone's sat through all of the 5 Bani, haven't they? For all 5. So everyone's sitting there for an hour in the morning when they're not used to sitting like that too. So that it's they've embraced it quite well, the Sikhi part. But it's the recovery. I think touching on the actual recovery part as well. I think that is a really important. Obviously, the strong part of Sikh Recovery Network is of Jazz's experience in that, and other people, and the addicts who give up, they form the community of of helping the recovery for other addicts, don't they? That's
What's most important with the retreat was, it wasn't not so much the 4 days that we done the exercises, etc. We learned a new way of life, a new routine, and the 4 days that we done the nickname every morning and night. It was the 90-day program afterwards. You know, the retreat is not just 4 days. You know, it's not just like you come 4 days, thank you very much, goodbye. No,
94 days.
it was a connection, and that connection stayed for another 90 days. So within that 90 days, there was a daily update, right? Where you had to do 4, simple tasks every day. Your nickname, your daily reflection, how you're feeling, what's good, what's bad. But you had to connect every day, and for 90 days. And what that did was the changes that we learned, how we rewired ourselves for 4 days, that continued.
Continued, yeah.
So them good habits continued for 90 days. And then I personally found that after the first week of the 90-day programs, I wanted to do my nickname. It empowered me.
I think the key word you've used is rewiring.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's not simply, we all say, it's not the case where I've stopped drinking and that's it, right? You have to physically change your habits and your art. So when we did the 90 days, we started that. We started after a couple of retreats, didn't we?
Yeah.
Because we saw that there's a need. Actually, what happens after the retreat? Because someone's saying, I'll see you at the next retreat in 3 or 4 months. But actually, what are they doing in that time between? So we do evolve. And even we look at the 12 steps, the Sikh 12 steps, that's where we started.
Yeah.
But that's now evolved into something different because what
Sikh
I think,
program. So
and I think someone came to myself and by yourself as well. We weren't too sure how much we could push with yourself as well, right? So we didn't want to offend you to say that this is the way things are done, and we don't want to come and try to impose Sikhi. But what we found was we were using foreign models and trying to fit Sikhi in this in an external model. But then we realised that actually the model is Sikhi. And it might sound cliche, that someone listening to might say, well, actually, that we're trying to ramp. But the fact is, for a second, our everything, our model how to live our life is Sikhi.
No, absolutely, and I agree, and I've learned so much from you guys being involved. even Bal Rai as well, and Bhagat Singh as well, by Amardeep Singh. A lot of some of these people, we don't see much of them, but behind the scenes, the work they've contributed a lot. I want to come back to the 90 days, Cam, but Tom, you've been sober now since that first retreat, haven't you?
I haven't touched
You've not touched it. So, and we sometimes forget the families, the impact it has on the families. They're the hidden victims, right? I've had the privilege of meeting your family. You being sober today and not having a drink, what, is it 2 years now?
nearly, yeah.
Nearly 2 years, right? How's that, what's the knock-on effect for your family?
Well, the knock-on effect is that there's more of a oneness, but to get to that point, you've got to be honest with your family as well. And what I found was a lot of the guys, when they come to the retreat, they're not honest with their families. For me, it was all about my family. From day one, when I first went to retreat, it was not just to help myself, it was to take away the pain for them as well. Because what we were going through was horrendous, as a family. It wasn't something that we created, just decided that we're all going to be in pain. No, it was external circumstances. But I not only wanted to help myself, I wanted to lift my family. And, today we're in a better place. But that's not just because of me. It's because of Sikhi as well. Because that Sikhi has come. Because Sikhi, what I found was, okay, I was a Sikh, but I never knew the fundamentals of Sikhism. Right? All I ever thought was that you pray, you pray, you pray. But Sikhi is not about praying. It's about action. It's a faith of action. Doing good deeds, good things, helping people, pulling people out. And that's what it's all about. And it changed my life. I went looking for something and I found something else. I found a new way of life. And I can't, sometimes I can't explain it, but it has. It's changed the whole fundamental of my life. Not just for myself, but for my whole family. And that's why I put back into Sikh Recovery Network. It plays a big part of my life now. But yeah, Sikhi is the fundamental of the whole program. But it wasn't, drilled into us. No way. It was said, look, this is a tool. And probably because many people who come into recovery or addiction, they haven't got the tools to deal with everyday
And I
life.
think that's the important thing. Is just, from a recovery point of view, I'm there because I've been in recovery for a while now. We're providing you with the tools and a coping mechanism, not just through recovery, but through Sikh. And I think more and more people that are coming through SRN, the Sikh Recovery Network now, are coming because they've heard about the Sikh element and they want to reconnect. Cam, you run the Wednesday meetings in Albury, and you've had you've met some of the families, I know, that come with their family members who are affected. Baisab, we've been to homes together, the families, and sadly we've been to families who've lost loved ones as well, and we've seen the pain that causes, the mother, the spouse. So just tell me your experience about the families and the pain they experience, because sometimes I don't think the families get spoken about much.
They don't, and we at SRN we do listen to people. So I mean, as a result of one of the workshops, the family workshops we did, we spoke about the support we give to the addict, and then the families turn around and say, well, actually, what support do we have? And on the back of that, we now have a fortnightly call, a Zoom call on a Monday for the families, and that's only strictly for the families to attend, because I think sometimes you hear if the addict saying that the family's basically said to him, go and get support, right? But if you've never been an addict before, where are you going to go to get support, right? And I think it's for those listeners here. I think one of the fundamental things of helping an addict is the family have a part to play as well. So if we accept that addiction is an illness, then and it's a family illness, because it's not the case where that addict, it only affects the addict, because an addict will say that, won't they? Maybe I'm ruining my life, but actually it ruins everyone in that household, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So the family have to be part and parcel of recovery, and the ones that we've noticed where the families have actively taken part in the recovery process with the addict, they're the ones that have had a good success, right? So its key element is that you have to change, and it's we're not saying about it's not about forgiveness, right, or forgetting. So it's not about forgetting what the family's been through, but there's an element they have to play ball as well.
But Bicep, there's some. I mean, I was going to. Cam just said it's a family disease, family illness. I think we all accept that, but sometimes the families they find it difficult to support because they have a lot of resentments, don't they? Of what the addicts put them through, and it takes a lot longer. And sometimes the addict, I know I did. I wanted my wife to forgive me after just a few days, but it was going to take a lot longer.
Yeah, and I think when one of the resources that Sikh Recovery Network, one of them was about supporting an addict, and what's the right way to speak, because sometimes it's when the resentment keeps escalating, it doesn't help recovery. I think, and that's a difficult thing to probably understand from a family's perspective, because it always looks like the addict's created the problem, is the problem, and if they stop, the problem gets solved. But it doesn't. Obviously, it's not as simple as that, is it? And the family working together as a unit, the resentment for the family is understood, isn't it? I mean, we can't say, of course.
You can't deny that.
You can't. They're going out at night to go and pick someone up who's absolutely drunk and and dysfunctional a lot of the time. So the pain of the family is understood, but the family has to make adjustments for the recovery to work, and so it's not. I think we've talked a lot about the Sikhi part of the recovery, but there's a lot of other parts of it, isn't there? The negative self-talk, dealing with that from the addict's perspective. There's the neural pathways and how to change them, and we do all. There's a lot of the effectively the cognitive behavior of an addict, but you can't expect all the families to understand that. And I think that's where the work has been done with Sikh Recovery Network, where the family's been integrated, haven't they? In whether it's Zoom calls, whether it's the resources. There's probably more work to do, but we did it initially started with a family workshop, didn't it? And the workshops are still going on, and there's another one coming up, isn't there?
We've got another one for the viewers who are watching this. We've got another workshop, a family workshop, coming up in Bedford, Gurdwara, on the 21st of March. So guys, if anyone wants to attend that with their families, please get in touch with us and we'll send you the details. You can book online through Eventbrite.
And
But
it was interesting though, because when we did that one of the exercises we do is a bit of a checklist about what not to do. And families always say, well, I tick all of those boxes in terms of what not to do.
Yeah.
And so the workshop's actually a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
And a bit of an eye opener for families as well, for them to come.
But also to learn off each other as well. It's like, you know, so it's about, even when we share stuff online as well, it's about families learning what's worked for other families and trying that out.
Yeah.
But also what we're trying to, we all constantly say to the addict, because what the addict will say is, well, I've stopped now, right? I had a month where I'm clean now, so my family hasn't still changed. And we constantly tell, actually, just because you stopped for a month, how many times have you stopped in the past where you told your family, I've stopped now, and then you constantly keep relapsing, and then the family's like, well, actually, it's like a yo-yo effect.
Yeah.
So the family's protecting themselves by saying, you know what, just because you stopped a week, right, I'm not ready yet. And at the same time, that's for the addict to understand as well, that, just because you decided to change now, you have to give family their time. So they will come around when they want to. You can't be forced. You can't say everything needs to be back to normal again. So it's that compromise and also respecting each other's, it's that space as well, isn't it?
No, absolutely. Tom, I want to come back to you. I mean, you talked about giving back. That's very important, not just in recovery, but in Sikhi as well, doing seva, right, selflessly. And, since you joined Sikh Recovery Network and getting good recovery behind you, you've running the Tuesdays, Friday Zoom calls, but you've also taken the time out to go and visit individuals who have been struggling. How important is that for you to give back?
That's very important because you develop an understanding, right? When you've been through a lot yourself, you understand, and especially when you reconnect with your own family, you understand what their needs were.
Yeah.
So when I go to visit somebody, I let the person, the addict, have his say first. Then he made his views or his grievances. But then I also say, right, now you've had your chance. Now let's listen to your wife or your kids. Let's see what they got to say. And then get an understanding that the whole the problem, it can be created on both sides, But that is one of the things that Sikh Recovery provides for the addict, which is very important. It gives them a safe space, right, to talk openly without judgment, whereas they can't speak to family members or even relatives, their cousins or friends. They can't do that, but they can, whether it's in the meetings or whether it's like at events. It gives them a chance to.
And that space is most definitely key. I mean, what I find on the Wednesday meetings is it's actually become like a well-being group. So, we initially start talking about the addictions, and very quickly it's become a space where individuals feel they can actually offload to people that actually understand them. And the beauty about the Sikh Recovery Network is, and this is coming from those that attend, is that you don't need to explain your circumstances to a group of people that actually belong to the same community. So if you say, for instance, I've got to go to a kind of party on the weekend, or something inside the party and around a family members that don't really be around. If you ask a non-Sikh, they'll say, well, don't go. But we know from a family point of view, it's not as easy to say, I'm not going to go there, because it causes more havoc. So when you're talking and using terminology is a key thing as well. So in the Sikh Recovery Network, we're using terminology which is not alien to us, right? So we're not using service, we're saying seva. We're not saying higher power, we're saying Vaheguru, right? Unconditionally, right? And so when you start using these words, people feel that this is a place of belonging, because these are words that have been brought up with. And so it's not external. We're using that same environment, and also in that group when the people are talking, they're actually talking about matters that they're dealing with on a daily basis. It might be work in the home with the in-laws, whatever it may be. But it's that safe space that you mentioned for you to offload, where there's non-judgment, and there's confidentialities there as well. Safe, and it's a safe place to express yourself, really.
And the point is, we know the family dynamics, right? Every Sikh knows family dynamics. They know exactly what goes on in families, so you don't have to explain yourself. In a couple of words.
Yeah,
we already know.
I think the important part of that is that where do men go to talk? It's unfortunate. It's about addiction as well, but just generally, that is an issue, and even some of the people we've lost probably lost. Some of them through where they've decided that they don't want to live anymore, and so they're just not letting enough out. They're not letting that steam out, and there's the big part of that group.
But also on that note as well. So what I'll tend to say to the guys that attend as well, you're actually not Sikh by nature now. So we say I'm a Sikh, and if you ask someone, are you a Sikh? Yeah, I'm a Sikh, right? But when you ask them what is it that you do that makes you a Sikh, it's very limited, right? But what these guys do through the Sikh Recovery Network and the way they start linking with the Sikhi, they start actually doing stuff which is Sikh-like. So when we're saying reading Gurbani, right? So if it's taken them to become an addict to find the Sikhi, where they're actually practicing Sikhi, might not be looking the part, but actually practicing Sikhi, it actually makes these guys more Sikh than the average guy on the street who's basically just saying, I'm a Sikh because I wear a kara or my name's Singh. And it doesn't go beyond that.
But it's an interesting thing you've said, Boris, is that we had someone come to the Derby meeting. We have the Derby face-to-face meeting on a Thursday, and I think he was in denial, right? But after the meeting, he said, you know what? He goes, I don't think it's for me. I don't think I'm as bad as some of these. But he goes, you know what? He goes, it's amazing, right? He goes, because you don't get this, men being able to talk about how they really feel. So having that space where there's no judgment, it's a safe space. He just found that really amazing. He thought, he couldn't believe
But the thing with that, Jazzy, is when you think of you talk to the guys now, when they say, yeah, I talk to my friends, unfortunately, when they're talking to their friends about problems, it's happening in the pub or with a drink.
Yeah.
So although, you talk to guys now and you say, actually, you know what, when they're sober and going back into those environments, they actually find, you know what, when you look at what we were talking about, it's actually nonsense.
Yeah. And I don't want to make this about Sikhi as well, because we haven't, for the viewers at home, we haven't rehearsed any of this. We just thought we were going to come on and just speak from the heart. But all this is, the talk of Sikhi. I think one of the significant things for me was when I asked two of the guys, I said, what's keeping you sober? And I think one had got a year. Both of them had done over a year. And, my ego was kicking in, thinking I was expecting, the Sikh Recovery Network, Jazz Rai, he's kept us sober. But it was beautiful to hear. They said, both of them said, it's getting up in the morning and doing part, Japji Sahib. For them to have that discipline and that structure in their day.
Routine, isn't it?
Routine, and having that faith in Maharaj and Gurbani to get them through the day.
It's a rewiring, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's for all of us. I mean, we're all addicted to something, aren't we? We're addicted to life, addicted to our money, or addicted to something, aren't we?
Food.
Yeah,
addicted to food.
Bit of sugar. But it's a rewiring for everybody, and I think it was a really important part for me and Cam, I think, as well, to share that, to say you don't have to be Amritari to do that.
Yeah.
It's to share it, to say this is part of who you are. Your ancestors all did it. If you got a single core on your name, your ancestors were doing this. You know what I mean? And some of that. So some of it is we've already got it, but we're not found it. And I think just that discovery of just saying, that is actually. I think an important point on this is a lot of people who relapse when they're doing this. What's the first thing that they do? The first thing that they do is stop doing their part.
They say that as well, don't they?
Yeah, they admit it. So maybe 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and then it goes that way. So there is something there. It's keeping you. If you're committed to it, it'll work for you. It's just that faith thing, I think.
And it goes to identity that you just explained as well. They end up someone coming to SRN who was like, say, a nobody. No one on the streets knew. Want to know them in their house. There's no real place for them in the house as well. But actually, it gives them an identity and that thing about being proud of who you are, right? Because we've seen guys who've lost family members that walked out with their children as well, and they're next to nothing. People, koi kadri nahi. And once they do find themselves and they're certain with themselves, because ultimately as well, they have to give up the drink or the drugs for themselves. We say that, don't they? Because someone will say, if I see my kids, I'll give up drinking as long as I can see my kids. But that's not the real reason. You have to give up for yourself. And Tom, no doubt you say that as well. It's got to be. You can't be for somebody else, can it?
It's got to be for yourself. And it's really, truly, what do you want in your life? And the other thing about Sikhi as well, we've got people that don't even speak Punjabi, don't even understand Punjabi, but they've been listening to the part over months and months, and suddenly, ਜਦੋਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅਸਰ ਪੈਣ ਲੱਗ ਪੈਂਦਾ, ਚੰਗਾ ਅਸਰ, and then they get addicted. They start reading up about it, and and some of these guys, well, they didn't even know how to speak Punjabi, and they're like,
Doing the
hitting
part.
you with
Yeah.
phrases, you know, from the Bani, and it's beautiful.
I think what you talk about belonging and pride to be there, but it gives people a purpose, doesn't it? You know, I find a purpose doing this. I'm sure you did as well, Tom.
You have to be selfish. You
Yeah,
say
yeah.
that, and that's what we say. You know, just like when you're in the madness and you're drinking and your drugs, right? You're selfish because you're just thinking about yourself, right? But actually, when it comes to your recovery, you have to also be selfish.
Absolutely, yeah,
You've got to think, I need to protect myself and my sobriety. If that means I'm not going to a family do because I know the influences they're going to be expecting me to drink, you've got to be selfish enough to say, you know what, I'm not going there.
I'm staying
Think
away.
about yourself.
Yeah.
If you look at the retreats, though, looking beyond the spiritual side, I mean, when everyone's going for a walk together, you know, that often that's a very powerful thing that happens there. Just being able to sit with 2 or 3 people on their own and have a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, therapists come there,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there's the professional element of that. There's also the activities that go on.
Yeah.
You know, there was painting therapy that
Yeah,
went on.
yeah.
There was
The djembe drums.
djembe drums. There's all sorts of. There's lots of. It's not just about that Sikhi bit, is it? I mean, it's quite a broad. It's a broad thing. There's the educational part of it. So people, we do sit and learn.
Yeah.
There is writing, you know, going on, and so it's quite a different experience. There's the formal side of it, the informal side of it, the spiritual side
And
of
I
it.
think that's what everyone, you know, the people that have come to it, and some of them have come again and again and again, and you know, we're good about that. It's not because they've relapsed; they just love that environment, and I think, you know, doing all those activities, getting up in the morning, then going for a walk. You know, Sherwood's a beautiful place, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the walks we've had there have been quite.
And we're developing it, aren't we? So, like Bas, I mentioned before as well, the first retreat compared to the latest one, you know, they're miles apart, really.
Yeah.
And we're constantly developing it. And because ultimately, you know, it's not about egos said, this is what we do, this is what we deliver, and this is all we're going to do. But actually, you know, the 90 days came off at the back of people saying, what happens after the retreat? We need more support. Okay, then, so what should we do? So we spoke about it, and it became a 90-day program. So we're constantly evolving, and as the need arises. So it's not the case, it's set in stone. We need to adapt.
No, but it's like we're learning as well, aren't we, as we're going along? I've learned a lot from you guys. You've learned from us.
I think addiction. We've learnt more and more about it, we've had to make some changes and adapt. I mean, and you know, one of the big things that happens if we talk about the retreat specifically is, if we talk, there's the positive part, but let's look at the negative part. Why don't they stop drinking, let's say, or they relapse quite quickly, say even after a retreat? So there's all those elements on there about sometimes people, they're not rock bottom, maybe. It could be, so this is more for someone who might be listening in and say, how, you know, where am I at in terms of addiction? Based on what we've seen, you know, another part might be they're being told by the family to do and they don't really want to, like we've touched on earlier.
Just ticking a box into it.
Ticking a box. Another time it's because they don't really make coping mechanisms. So they'll go out of the retreat, but the 90 days still helps. But people fall off the 90 days because they haven't put those practices in place like Tom did. You know, like you made big changes. The spiritual side, I would say, why are we really here? Have they really asked that question? Impact on family, that kind of thing. So there's lots of other things about what preparation a person might need. Some people have drinking, you know, not to, you know, when the retreat starts, they've been drinking a few days before, haven't they?
Yeah.
And they haven't really pushed themselves to the
Prepared themselves mentally, have they?
Exactly,
Yeah.
The mental preparation, the physical preparation, even that thing. You know, some people you don't know anybody there. Sometimes, you know, sometimes you have to prepare yourself for that. You know, we've had people. I mean, in one of the retreats, even though it wasn't here, it was in the Canada one. You know, you had people there who didn't want to talk.
Yeah.
By day 4, they're talking the most.
Yeah.
You know, so there's lots of things going on, and everybody's.
I want to come to Canada in a second because that was a great experience.
Yeah.
But I just want to remind the viewers, and we're talking a lot about the retreats. The next retreat, our 10th retreat, the Sikh Recovery Network's 10th retreat, is on February the 19th. Starts on the 19th to the 22nd. It's in Nottinghamshire at Sherwood Forest, a beautiful venue. So if you want to book yourself on there, or you want more details, you can contact myself at the Sikh Recovery Network, and you can register. If you've already made your mind up, you're coming, you can register on Eventbrite. And the 4 days rather, covers the £200 that you have to pay, covers for your accommodation, food, and the resources that we provide. And honestly, from myself, I go there not as a facilitator. I go there to learn and to sort of strengthen my recovery as well, not only through recovery for the tools, but also from the Sikhi aspect as well.
Just very quickly on that as well, you mentioned the cost is £200, yeah, but that's a program for 94 days.
Yeah, I think, Baisab, I wanted to say that, when Tom talked about the 90 days, you kind of interjected and said it's 90, you're actually paying for 94 days, aren't you? So if someone's really serious about it, you're paying, it's for 90,
Compared
it's not
to
four days, you're paying
But if you go into rehab, I mean, we've had people going into rehab, and that cost doesn't even cover a day of rehab.
No.
It's no one's there to make money. I think that's what the main thing is, because obviously there is the making of money in this whole arena, isn't there?
Yeah.
In terms of recovery, but it's not about that, is it? It's about
not.
seva, and I think it's about demonstrating that everyone who's doing seva there, and you're trying to encourage and inspire people to do seva.
And I think when you talk about seva and being selfless, you two are being selfless. You give up your time and your family time. And Tom's there as well as he's giving back, being there, talking about his journey. We've got others there as well that talk about their journey. They help you on a Wednesdays.
Yeah,
definitely. When you come.
And this is the beauty of it, you see. So I mean,
and it's the same in Derby as well.
And people ask us, what's the vision? It's like if I look at what do I expect, and they say, why are you doing it? You're doing it out of you do it for free. And for me, it's a case where, when we look at the issues we have within the community, right, and this issue around addiction in the community, the Sikh community, is our problem, right? So we think that someone from externally, is going to come and say, look, Sikhs have a problem with the addiction. We need to go and do something about it. That isn't going to happen. It's our mess, which we created ourselves, which we need to sort out, right?
Yeah.
So the way I try to work around things is, if I can help somebody today, right, then that individual think, they'll probably think, someone helped me when I needed something, and they will repay that by helping somebody else. So we need to create a chain reaction, right? Like Tom, for instance, right? Tom came to us, right? He needed help, right? He's got the support he needs. Now he's actually mentoring others.
You're empowering people, aren't you? That's what you're empowering people, and I think.
Sorry. Yeah, I was going to say that is the program, though. When they talk about AA, the 12th step, you only keep what you got. If you give it away,
yeah.
Right, since I've started doing this, I've had family members who've approached me. I've had friends of my sons have approached us, and one of them's coming to the retreat. He's booking it up, and they're not scared to talk to me. And that's so beautiful. I've had nieces phone me, saying like, he needs help. Would you talk to him? I say, yeah.
That's the power of talking about this, and people think that there's a shame attached to it, don't they? There is a stigma, but by just you coming out and talking about your addiction to alcohol, look how many people have approached you.
But just have you come forward? Would you say that we actually progress? So this akarpana, the ego that we have in the community, right? It's still. I mean, I'm quite surprised that even 2026, we're still having these conversations about alcohol where we haven't even touched upon, let's say, the coke issue within the community as well, right? So
I think, for me personally, I think we're not even scratching the surface. If I'm truly honest with you, we're not even scratching the surface. I think it's that bigger problem. And then when you look at other substances, you talked about cocaine. There's cannabis. The list is prescription pills. The list just goes on. We've had Amritdaris call SRN and saying, I'm addicted to painkillers. Baji, help me. They've been on the phone crying to me, right? Saying, I can't get off them. I've just put my wife through hell. I've taken my wife's been controlling my drugs for me, but I've had to beat her up to get them off her. And that's how bad it is. And that's an addiction. But I want to talk about Canada, Paisab. You mentioned Canada. Going to there was amazing, a great experience. I mean, when you look at the two here, did you find many differences between the Canadians? What was different in Canada to here, if there was any difference?
I mean, there's the interesting thing about Canada was all of the addicts. I mean, in England, when we do a retreat, we'll do the part. If we go to Gurdwara, we might do something there. I mean, Canada had a site where they had effectively had a Gurdwara on site there, didn't they? But those guys there all the addicts did all the seva. They did the part, they did the kirtan, they did the. So Canadian upbringing is a little bit different from the England upbringing. There's a bit of a wake up call really, because they're a bit more grounded in Sikhi, even though they're not necessarily Amritaris or anything like that, but they might have gone off, but they still got that thing. They've still got that thing. It was quite easy to work with them in terms of
they had a foundation, didn't they?
Yeah.
They lost the way. They had a foundation. They lost the way, but so when it was reintroduced to them, they picked it up quite quick. I mean, some of the beautiful moments in Canada for me was that you mentioned they were doing Kirtan, they're doing Guru Sahib Seva, they did the Netnem, and also there's one guy you mentioned as well when he said he didn't speak from the day because he had anxiety, I think it was, and on the last day he's the one that did the Ardas. In front of the whole Sangat. So very, very powerful, and there's some beautiful moments where people actually connected with Guru Sahib there. They had some spiritual experiences there as well, and that's Guru Skalara.
I think even when we talked on the radios there was a big response.
Surge, weren't there?
There was a very big response in terms of phone calls. I think 85 phone calls happen on one day.
Yeah.
Whereas in England, it seems like it's still a bit of a taboo subject, and people aren't really coming forward where they really should do.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, I've spoken about the Tuesdays and the Friday Zoom calls. That we've getting people from America, Canada.
So some days it's 50-50.
Yeah, 50-50. So the message is out there, and
it's becoming international calls. The Friday calls are now becoming international.
The beautiful thing is we're getting a lot more girls coming on to Zoom meetings.
That's good.
And they're not afraid to talk because they've got a platform to talk. Whereas, they can't go to face-to-face meetings, but they're on Zooms.
And I think it's good that with SRN here in the UK that we have got females who have got good recovery now and that are supporting other women as well. And I think that's something we don't talk about. We get that engrossed in the men, and we sometimes forget about the women. And forget about the other addictions, the other substances that we forget to talk about because we focus that much on alcohol because it's such a big problem in the community.
But it's also, the hubs that were made. That's the importance of the hubs. I mean, when we look at recovery as well, it seems like there's a stronger likelihood of someone recovering or moving positively if they've got a hub near them. If someone's living away from one of the main cities like Derby or Coventry and all the other places where that's happening. So that's why there's so much seva needed at the moment, because whoever comes should have something nearby so that they can connect weekly. And the Zoom calls are helping anyway, obviously, because it's virtual. But just being, you don't beat face to face, do you really? And just having a hub there
for the viewers who are listening and watching this, is the hubs, we have hubs and volunteers in Derby, Leicester, Coventry, Birmingham, Gravesend, Bedford have just reached out and they do meetings at the Gurdwara in Bedford as well. So a strong recovery community there. So if you want to contact the Sikh Recovery Network and find out where your nearest hub is or your nearest volunteers for the Sikh Recovery Network, once again, please get in touch and we can provide you with that information.
I think even if someone's got recovery and they wanted to help with a hub in
absolutely,
create new hubs.
Create
new hubs. I think up north as well.
It's not just for addicts, it's people who've recovered as well. If anyone who's recovered and can do something in
good recovery.
Scotland or something, even
Newcastle.
Wales we've had people from Wales come to the camp, to the retreats, haven't we? So there's a lot of work to do, and anyone who can help, more than welcome.
Tom, you've spoke about the impact it's had on your family. You've had the impact on me. I mean, what's life like today for you today?
Life's good. I'm not going to say it's always going to be perfect. This is a thing that I think a lot of people think, oh yeah, everything's going to be bright. No, what I've learned is how to deal with life, how to live life on life's terms, where I probably didn't know how to live life on life's terms. There's always going to be pain. There's always going to be difficulty. And this is what Sikhi has taught me. Dukh da hi ane. It's samne kada dukh. And that's it. How do you work through pain? How do you work through difficult times? Because there's always a solution. And as Sikhi gives you a solution.
I think a bit more on that now.
It gives you a bit more understanding.
Yeah.
We've got more on that now. It'll be in the next retreat. But finding happiness through sadness and understanding it, because as you say, is life. But life's got a lot of positives as well. It's just seeing those positives. That one of the big things about the retreats is about gratitude, isn't it? And the journals and things about filling in, about looking at life and not seeing it all as negative. Because obviously when an addict comes in, a lot of the time they talk everything's just bad, you know, in terms of their perspective. But it isn't necessarily always like that. But sometimes life is bad as well. So when we go through the sections of life, the wheel of life, basically, and the areas that are weak, where areas are weak, you got a likelihood that could have caused an issue. So we try to balance everything out.
And I think one of the Tom talked about managing things, and I think some people tend to think that when they've stopped drinking or taking drugs, that everything's going to be perfect. But I still have those same emotions, you know, after so many years. I still have those same feelings and emotions that I did so many years ago when I was drinking today, and I'm in recovery. But I just know what recovery's given me and what Sikhi's given me is how to manage them.
But also the art as well, and so I think even from a family point of view, you know, just because someone stopped drinking, some of the art might be that's who they are, right? Right. So it's a case where they need to work on those and change in the art.
You know, when you're talking about habits and adatan,
yeah.
You know, since you've been coming to the retreat, this is for you two, by the way. ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਆਦਤਾਂ or your habits. Have you learnt anything from the addicts? Has any of your habits changed?
By watching them, I think one of the look, there's a really positive thing about what we've seen from addicts as well, because I think we mentioned it before, but in other scenarios, but they're very honest. They're very, very honest, but they're the biggest liars sometimes as well. You know what I mean? In terms of when they're working with their family, they're using deception all the time. Manipulation and things. But when someone really, really wants to give up and they let go, that honesty, that's equivalent to a Peshi in Sikhi. You know, when you go to the Guru and you say, this is who I am. And they're doing that, aren't they? And that part, we've always said that some of the more honest than Amritari things that we meet. You know?
And it's for me, it's actually enhanced my Sikhi.
It's
right?
what?
It's enhanced it, right? And I tell you what, so you know when you get addiction, an addict, right? They're at the lowest point, right? So when they see a Nand, right, they see bliss. They got something to compare it to because they know how it looks like, right? So they've actually, sometimes when we haven't got addictions, right, our good times, we see them very negatively. And actually, when you start seeing these guys, and get and I would say, right, for me, it's been the case, but there's some of the addicts, they probably listen to more Bani than Amritaris. Right? So it's a case where, you know, it's quite beautiful to see. And also, I think it's a case where, you know, this divide about Amritaris, we looked at, you know, it ain't our problem. Before, I mean, this used to be said, well, it ain't our problem, we're not going to discuss this, right? So we won't discuss it because we shouldn't be drinking anyway. So we're not going to discuss it. It is our problem. Always ਸਾਡੇ ਆ. So when we say like, ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ, always ਸਾਡੇ. Right? So there's none of that. So if anything, I think it's helped bridge that gap as well. No doubt.
Definitely. I mean, that's very true, Cam. And I'm not just saying that because you two are here or we're doing a podcast together. I can genuinely say that people have warmed to you. Sometimes I feel they warm to you two, and people like Bal Rai from Leamington, Bhagat Singh, because you're not keeping them at arms. You know, keep away from me. You're embracing them as you should, because they're human. It's that connection, isn't it? And I think that's why they're falling in love with Sikhi again, because they don't see those barriers. You know, sometimes you go to the Gurdwara and they've been pushed out.
But if you remove the addiction part away, they've probably got very similar problems to what we've all got.
Yeah, of course they have.
You know, some of it might be amplified. It might be a bit worse. Some people's might be a bit worse. But they're, as you say, they're just humans. I guess, you know what? You know, when you think about addicts, and you've not, before I'd done the retreats, I don't even know what I thought an addict was. But when you actually go there, they're just like everybody else. They're like, often there's some really, really beautiful guys there who are you could just see these guys are just, there's an element of their life that they've wasted. That, you know, if that was put into a bit of productivity, they would have been doing amazing things. Something's gripped them, hasn't it?
So one of the things I say to the guys on Wednesday as well is, you know, the problems that you have are problems that the world has as well. It's not exclusive to you being an addict. The only difference is that you turn towards alcohol or drugs to actually suppress those feelings. But the average man, where does he go? So in a way, the fact that some of these addicts have been through that, right, they've managed to find a way out as well. So we say, Guru Sahib saying, "Dukh daru sukh rog paya," right? So sometimes actually you needed that to wake you up, right? So it's quite a beautiful thing in that way as well.
It's something that I said to someone who had recovery. He had all right recovery. And I said, like, so this person was kind of doing 12 steps and they have a sponsor. So like when they, when they're feeling a bit down or whatever, they talk, I goes, who's my sponsor? I said, you've got a sponsor, who's my sponsor? So and it made him realize as well, it's like, you know what, yeah, you ain't got a sponsor, but I've got, I might have problems, you got problems. So then it's about having that conversation about what is life really? Yeah. Is it really as bad as you think it is? Yeah. Is there other ways of working coping things out and making broader relationships with different types of people? Yeah. It's like we were saying, if there's, I haven't had addict friends before, but now we've got addict friends. They might now have Amritari friends. Definitely. And so you're bridging a load of gaps that we've made in our community. We've fractured our community ourselves.
We are fragmented in that sense. It was like us and them, where and they say again, identity. You're not part of us, but actually you are. We're all part of the same.
And it's crazy, isn't it? Because you look what addictions. Some of these guys who are addicts or in recovery now, they're warming to you guys, and they're building their connections, about building bridges back into Sikhi. Guys, we're unfortunately we haven't got enough time. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Under the Influence always closes a show with one question. I always ask one question. I'm going to ask you, Baisab, the question, and I'll come to Tom and Cam afterwards. What are you under the influence of today?
Under the influence?
What are you under the influence of today?
Do I really have to tell you that? I'm wearing a sugar monitor. That's what the influence I'm under.
That should be easy for you.
Yeah, today, I mean, every day to me now is just it's beautiful, isn't it? So I think it's just seeing life for what it is, but then finding the beauty in it. I think that's
okay, that's beautiful. Yeah. Tom, what are you under the influence of today?
Well, I'm under the influence. What I'm saying was by them, what I do every day is try and reach out to somebody and help them.
Connection.
Because there's a lot of people who need help. Thing is, right, they're too scared to reach out themselves, so sometimes you have to give them a nudge.
Carry on doing what you're doing, Tom. You're doing amazing. Cam, what are you under the influence of today?
I think for myself, this is the realisation that the only two things we really have control over is what we say and what we do. So sometimes I think we concentrate too much on what others have said, or trying to control what others are saying or what they're doing. That's not onto us, So it's about being content within yourself, and just that's what you can control, really.
That's beautiful. Thank you, guys, and thank you to all the viewers for listening. And anyone that wants any information on the next retreat, the next family workshop, or where our hubs are, or where the meetings are, get in touch with the Sikh Recovery Network, and we'll give you all those details. Thank you.